Good evening and welcome to the third pre-summit session of the Global Tipping Point Summit from November 20th next month to January 31st, 2021. I am Dr. Coomi Vevaina, the founder director of the summit. My team members, comprising 108 people, have been working relentlessly for the past several months to make the Global Tipping Point Summit meaningful and successful. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for showing your support to the summit by your participation today. Kindly view this short film, which will give you a few more details about the summit.
Our aim is to create healthy learning and nurturing ecosystems by combining knowledge with self-awareness and wisdom to transform our lack-based consciousness into one rooted in abundance.
Who will be attending the summit?
Policymakers and education board authorities, principals, teachers, college and university professors, parents, caregivers, librarians, counselors, students, and anyone who's interested in education and parenting. What do we do differently? We have world-class visionaries and thought leaders as speakers who will expound their ideas and point the way in the right direction. They will be supported by far in the belly change facilitators who will suggest effective and practical ways of implementing the ideas of the speakers. At the online summit, participants will be invited to form action groups in the areas of their choice and to create the change they wish to see in the world. By 2025, we hope to reach out to as many people as possible through face-to-face and online talks and workshops. Come, be a part of the change. For more details on the summit, please visit our website www.gtps4change.org. See you there.
Thank you. This is a very special session, and I'm really excited about it because it involves young people. My team members and I are really keen to see young people actively participate in the summit. Why is it that the climate change has become a global movement? Very simply, it's because there are thousands of youth leaders everywhere working collaboratively with scientists, artists, innovators, city planners, and so on and so forth. Just last evening, Pope Francis made a very interesting observation. He said that alongside working on environment, we should also be working on social change. He called it integral ecology. With relevant education and with mindful parenting, we can provide our young people with a very useful toolkit to enable them to work towards sustainability and a saner and safer world for all. What we plan to do at this session is to try and understand the kind of changes that our young people would like to see in education and parenting. and pass on those views to the speakers at the same summit with a request that they incorporate their ideas and concerns in their presentation. We would love to see our young people subsequently become a part of our action groups and take our project-oriented summit forward. With this, I'm delighted to welcome my co-host and member of the GTPS Summit, Ms. Deepa Soman, Founder Director of Lumiere Business Solution, and our young friends here today, Araav Kumar, Podar International School, Mira Road, Arjun Rajda, DSB International School, Balraj Kaur Hanspal, MA M.Phil student at the University of Mumbai, Diya Rajput, St. Andrews College, Gouri Thakur, Gazdar Park Manekji Secondary Municipal English School, Krishna Mankarmi, J.B.Petit High School for Girls, Parameshwari Nair, Udayachal High School, Sia Dande Chatrabhuj Nursery School, Sumit Rajput, ISB Hyderabad, and Tejas Bhosle, Gopte Joglekar College, Ratnagiri. So thank you all for being here. Let's start with a few questions on education. Then we move on to a few on parenting. And finally, we will ask questions which could apply equally to parenting and education. So are you ready? Great, let's begin. So my first question is, if you had the powers of your favorite superhero, what is the one thing you would want to change about education? Anyone?
May I?
Yes, please. Please give us your name.
I wish Gouri Thakur.
All right. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. I first wish to mention the name of my superhero. She is Savitribai Phule. Today, the world needs female like her. She was of the generation where women were non-existent. She grew up when India was under the British rule. In such situation, if a woman like her can establish the first school for girls, I am very sure if I would given the power of her, I would wish to still eradicate discrimination and unfair treatment given on the basis of caste, gender, disability, and status. I wish to be a social reformer like her and change the face of education system by actually executing the law of education for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's absolutely brilliant. And we are all with you when it comes to inclusivity. Anyone else? Anyone else? What if you had the powers of your superhero? What is the one thing you'd want to change? Can't think of it right now. Anyone? No? Okay, let's move on. I would like you to think of one topic from a subject in your curriculum or what you feel should be a topic in your curriculum and formulate 2 reasons why it should be taught and the benefits accruing from teaching that unit.
May I answer?
Yes, please. Please give us your name first.
Krisha Mankarmi.
Yes, Krisha, please.
So as an ICSE student, yoga is my optional subject. It's my 6th subject. So in yoga, it's a beautiful practice that helps one to realize their inner self and feel more conscious about their existence. Because the only truths that all of us are living today is I am, because you are living, you are in existence. And if I were to look at one thing that needs to be taught from yoga, I would pick Eckhart Tolle's philosophy and the power of now.
Wonderful.
So the primary step in the yoga practice, which leads you to accept it with an open mind, is that people need to understand that yoga is so much more than meditation and breathing, because it helps you to realize so many things about yourself, about you as a person. And the power of now and Eckhart Tolle's philosophy essentially speak about living in the moment and making the moment that you are in the best possible moment for yourself, because the past is in the past, you can't change that, and the future is totally unknown to us. So by enhancing where you are right now, it would be so much better. And I just feel like it is very important to concentrate on this because it teaches you to ground yourself in the moment. And more importantly, mental health issues are something which are of a concern right now because a lot of people struggle with different issues, especially during the pandemic when we are all housebound and we're seeing the same people every day. So if you were to learn yoga, you would learn how to live with yourself. You would learn acceptance of how you are, and you would also learn how to be so much more confident in the place that you're in and more rooted to existence. It would help to prevent the alienation that all of us face during COVID times, which is why I feel that if the power of now were used to our benefit, it would help students cope with their academics so much more better because they would learn, they would realize what they're facing in a more effective manner.
Wonderful. Absolutely. I think it's so vital. And probably you know that the Power of Now also has a workbook, a separate workbook which comes with it. So, see, are you trying to say, Krisha, sorry, are you trying to say that you would rather that yoga be made compulsory and this kind of knowledge of self-regulation and self-awareness be a part of your curriculum?
Definitely, because when you look at self-regulation, people don't know how to cope with the stress that they're facing. So all that we need is within us. All the answers to ourselves are within us. We don't need to go outside and reach out to them. If we learn how to look at ourselves inside, we'll be able to time manage so much better and look at different things from a very different point of view, which would enhance our living.
I think this is so beautiful because you don't have to wait till you turn 40 to gain spiritual knowledge. The sooner you gain it, the more effective you are in life. Great. Any comments from anyone or any other suggestions? Please feel free to talk.
Good morning. Good afternoon, Coomi. This is Karishma from London.
Okay. Hi, Karishma.
Krisha, what a very lovely idea. Did you also want to include, possibly, the real concept of yoga, which is being one with the one? Therefore, the oneness with all, a very important theme possibly for you to consider in these times of isolation.
Definitely.
You want to think about it and comment?
Yeah. So when you talk about being one with the one, that's essentially what the Vedanta philosophy of yoga talks about. It talks about being
Okay, stop.
one.
Krisha, just 1 second. Instead of quoting the Vedanta, my question was to you for yourself and for those around you. It's very you-centric, my question. So do you want to think about it for yourself, please?
I would definitely look at it from my point of view because as a practitioner, I believe that once you realize that you're one with the universe, everything that happens to you is for the betterment of yourself. So any difficulties that come to you need to be faced by you under any circumstances, and whatever happens is good because in the end, our goal is to get salvation, which is obviously not something that we need to be bothered about. But if we were to look at any circumstances that come to us and realize the good in them, it would help us to be so much more intuitive to what is happening to us. And I just feel like if we keep going there and realizing that whatever happens for a greater good, and if that were taught to us at this level, it would just help us cope so much better with everything that we face at different points in our life, not only as an adult but also a teenager.
And of course, this is valorizing also what quantum physicists are telling us. David Bohm talks about the explicate order. And at the level of the explicate order, you and I are different. But at a deeper implicate level, we are essentially one. You know, we could go on talking about this forever. It's so brilliant that a young person like you mentions it. And I'm all for it. Anyone else? Anyone else? Would you like to answer this question that I put to you? Anything that you'd like to say? Yes, please. Who's that?
Gauri Thakur.
Yes, Gauri, please.
Gauri Thakur.
Yes, Gauri.
If I am given an opportunity to craft a curriculum, I will incorporate subject like conservation, because conservation of water, forest, environment, and etc. is very important. Though this topic can be covered up in value subject. Still, if it's given an importance as a subject, will help us to conserve a lot in future. Second, skill. Okay, skill. Students should be given an option to master or sharpen their mind, sharpen their inborn talent and hobbies, and make their career in it. After all, we students have to survive in the world by working. So why not from school level? We can get to learn and mastery over it. Thank you.
We are coming to that question a little later. Gouri, maybe you'd like to talk then. I'm going to ask you about how a passion project can become your career. I'll soon come to that question. Right? Anyone else? All right, so let's move to the next question, which is, how would you like to create the learning content and decide what to teach in your favorite subject? You know, today we have collaborative syllabi which we make with the stakeholders, not only the students, but in many, many good schools, we also involve parents and others. So if you were involved in creating a syllabus in a subject of your choice, how would you decide on the content? Would you decide on content which has to be learned by rote? Would you decide on ensuring that basic concepts are introduced and understood? How would you go about it?
May I answer this question?
Yes, please, madam. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So I am a PhD student. So probably I have faced all the stages of education I could. And if given a chance, I would like to study for my entire life. I mean, that's my passion for studies. So something that I have faced, I mean, I would take a sample of 2 subjects and I'll restrict myself to India because that's what my experience would speak for. So there are these 2 critical subjects. One is mathematics, which is always communicated as a very abstract and dry subject, where most of the people lose out their interest initially when they get into maths. And maths is like, I mean, it's something which is used by parents or teachers to scare their students, scare their children off. But then maths is a lovely subject if it's taught with an application orientation. I'll give you a small example. Since I'm sure there might be students from standard 8 to 12 who would relate a lot with this. There are things like integration and derivations, like derivatives and integrations. And these things, I have heard my parents or probably my friends saying back to me back when I was in school, like, you'll not use this your entire life. I mean, this is not something which is of any utility to you. But now when I'm undertaking research, especially when it comes to economics, what is minima or maxima cannot be understood without a strong orientation of derivative and integration. So now when we say what is derivative and what is integration, people are blank. If I give a 10th standard student some critical problem on derivative or integration, he would solve it just like that, because he has done the same problem for 10 times. Because in school he is taught the same sum. If he goes to the coaching class, he's taught the same sum. Or wherever he goes, he has this orientation of solving the problem but not understanding it. This is something which defeats the entire purpose of the subject and education itself. Because he can understand how to do it, but he doesn't understand why he is doing that. This is something really critical. So if I have to introduce something, especially with respect to mathematics, I would try and inculcate more real life examples. Integration is nothing but it's the area which underlies a curve. That's it. So how does that help me? That only helps me when I'm doing a research or say how many people are educated in this country. So when I have that graphical curve, the area which is below that curve defines the people who are educated, and integration solves that problem in a single bit. Like once you do integration of this entire function, you get to know just with a matter of few seconds that how many people are educated, and you can then correlate what's the problem and what's not. And then this helps you take proper and pragmatic decisions if it's for policymakers as well. And the second subject, which I feel is engineering is something where people see it as a place where you actually want to get an employment. probably, I'm very sorry to say this, but then state of education in India, where education is seen as a means to get an employment. Again, this defeats the entire purpose of education, because education should be solely for the purpose of education. It should be the means and end in itself, and not being a means to achieve something else. Whereas if we leave it open to students to decide on what they want to do with a proper education, or education for the purpose of education, they will decide in themselves in more unique careers, more unique career options, or probably they might broaden the horizons of society as well to think on few things which we have not taught till now. So something that I want to introduce is there need to be some real life examples in mathematics, subjects like mathematics, and also because I think Gauri has mentioned about philosophy. Philosophy is also an interesting subject where people feel, okay, we have ideas of great people and then we'll just use them, write an exam, pass an exam, and then go ahead. But philosophy, we have never understood the true meaning of philosophy, which means love for wisdom. I don't see there is a philo. I mean, etymologically, philos and Sophia. Sophia is wisdom, and philo is love, love for wisdom. So, philosophy as a subject is highly underrated subject when it comes to India. So because people feel that, okay, this is not something where we see employment opportunity. Let's not go there. But it's not that. It shapes your persona, and if you have a magnetic persona, you're not going to rely on some job. You'll create jobs, and that's what we want to see. And that's what I would like to quote. So these are the two subjects which are very abstract and dry, but they are not. So that's what I think.
What wonderful how you put it very well. So what you are trying for and what you think is relevant, what is relevant should be part of your curriculum. And at the same time, we should not be focusing only on jobs. I think this is absolutely vital. We need skills more than jobs, because 65% of the jobs that we have today are going to be rendered redundant in the next few years.
Yeah,
So
indeed.
having the wisdom, having those skills, having that orientation, I think is much more relevant. Thank you. Well taken.
May
Anyone
I?
else? Anyone else?
May I?
Yes, Balraj.
I would like to focus on rather how the learning content should be learned and taught, given
Yes.
the present scenario of COVID-19 and the crisis that we are facing, and as well as the new education policy of 2020, which emphasizes precisely on the inclusion of different disabled into the academic sphere. I think the tools related to assistive technology would be beneficial not only to the differently abled students but also to the teaching faculty at large. Tools such as, you know, transcribers, automatic page turners, screen readers, optical recognition tools, etc., along with constructivist approach to teaching, which emphasizes on the practical and theoretical skills of teaching that subject, irrespective of whatever subject it may be. Thank you.
Thank you, Balraj. You brought up a very, very important point. We talk about inclusivity, but just like Sumit, you were saying it's not merely theory. It has to be more practical. And even I think in the teacher training program that we have the causes, we have the symptoms, and yet not many teachers really know how to deal with students in class. So I think the points you've made are very, very relevant.
I would like to add on to that, ma'am.
Yes.
I think disability studies and special education courses should be a part of curriculum so that both teachers and parents get an insight into the needs and wants of the different able students,
Absolutely.
because they are essentially the guides of their progeny or students.
Absolutely. That is why we have two verticals to this summit, Balraj. One is education and one is parenting. We want to bring parents on the same page and to help parents work side by side, collaboratively with the teachers for the highest good of every learner. Thank you very much, Balraj. Wonderful.
My pleasure.
Um, we keep talking about learner-centric education, and yet, essentially, and more so since the pandemic, we are focusing on teacher-centric education, because learner-centric education is becoming increasingly difficult online. Even otherwise, my feeling is that though we keep talking about the learner, we do not still have the learner at the center. If there is a certain learning situation in class or a unit in class, how would you like to be taught? Would you like to be taught with projects, arts, whatever? Anyone could answer this question from the panel. Any of the panelists, please? How would you like to be taught?
May I?
Yes,
Ma'am, can you just repeat the question because there was some disturbance at my end.
there was some disturbance. Right, I'll repeat it. We keep talking about learner-centric education, putting the learner at the center. And we hope that the teacher focuses on the learner, and all the teaching pedagogy, the methodology revolves around the learner. The teacher is not the sage on the stage, but a guide by the side. Does this really happen? How would you make it happen? How do you visualize an ideal situation of learning? Anyone? Anyone from the panel? Somebody said she wants to answer.
Yes, ma'am. According to me, when you're making something learner-centered, I would, there are three aspects when it comes to teaching something to a student in an extremely well way. There is observation, there is practical learning, and there is learning by practice. So observation is, as it says in the name itself, you observe the situation. Practical learning by experiments or projects, you said the parrot is, have the child do it. That is practical learning. Learning by practice is repeating the same concept again and again after understanding it. These are the three aspects of education which I believe would make it learner centered. Another thing, what I think should be put forth when you want to make the child understand something really very well is have them teach. Have them learn and then have them teach, because teaching is the best way of learning.
Okay, very good, very interesting. Anyone else? If you have a different take on it, please feel free to talk. How would you like, are you familiar with something called phenomenon-based learning? Where even if you take a topic like the Industrial Revolution, you build it into a phenomenon, and all the learning from different aspects revolves around it, and your different subjects are covered as you study that. Does that kind of thing interest you? Would you like interrelating one subject with the other, interlinking one subject with the other? Or would you rather have clear-cut subjects? This is a history class, let's do only history. Or would you like to know something more about the history of the Mughal period, the dance, the art, the cultural aspects? Would you want that to be woven in? Would you want your dance teacher to come in? Would you like your art teachers to come in? Would you like that kind of teaching is what I'm asking? Or would you say, no, well, I know I just have to clear an exam and let it be in the different ghettos of history, geography, math, physics?
May I, ma'am? May I answer this?
Who's that?
Sumit.
Hi, Sumit. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I am up for this cross-disciplinary idea where we have where we have historical significance with a scientific tilt, or where we have 2-3 subjects getting linked together. But then my only concern lies over here is given the paucity of time, if there are too many distractions, we leave the focus. So I mean, the entire purpose of because we are running against the time, right? We are with finite time available at our dispense. So if suppose learner or probably the teacher, both of them get carried away with the subject, and if they go on and they miss out the entire idea, the objective of the class, then I mean, this is something which makes me a little skeptical about this idea. But having said that, I would definitely want certain amount of interlinkages where probably if you speak about Mughal era, if you talk about Mughal era, I have paintings, or probably where murals were famous, and then miniature painting was brought in by Mughals. So introduction of these ideas, and then probably these are carried forward in a more comprehensive way as and where they are needed. That would be something which I would focus on.
I fully,
Ma'am?
yeah, sorry. Yeah,
Yeah. May I please check if I'm audible? This is Diya.
this is, yeah, hi there. Yeah.
Yeah. So adding to what Sumit said, I also think that, yeah, interdisciplinary collaborations are a must. Otherwise, how do you relate one subject to the other? But I mean, I would want that, but not just for the sake of it. So I'll give you 2 examples. In the last week, I attended 2 interdisciplinary collaborated events. One was about Renaissance art. And the students were actually history students, and they made some art out of whatever they were taught and all of those things. And we as literature students, we are also studying Renaissance in our 16th to 18th century British literature. And we happened to attend the session, but to be very honest, I couldn't relate, or I couldn't get anything out of it in terms of literature. My purpose of being there was to learn something. The medium could be anything. The medium could be music or art. But if I was there as a literature student, I could not relate as much. But on the other hand, I attended another session which was organized by Avid Learning, and it was about fantasy, architecture, and literature. So it talked about various things, sci-fi, and how accurate it can be, and multiple things. And I learned more about those texts in terms of, let's say, geocriticism or eco-criticism for that matter from that session than I ever did when I read criticism otherwise. So I think having it is fine, but the purpose should be clear at the very beginning. That's my take on it.
I'm completely with you. I share your concerns. It depends on how it is delivered. If you keep the core concept at the center, you can build around it. But I don't mean frills and fancies. Those are not extraneous. Those are also important for an understanding of the core concept. Unfortunately, we do not have training in this particular area, but interdisciplinary studies can be extremely fruitful. And if we are talking about the multiple intelligences of students, then students with diverse intelligences get involved in it, and learning happens. Rather than teaching, learning happens. So yes, I fully appreciate what you said. Thank you. To move on to the next question, would you like to see your passion project? What do I mean by passion project? Work you create because it gives you joy and allows you to display your skills. So would you like your passion projects to be included in the assessment? Firstly, would you like formative assessment, which tests the process, or summative assessment, which only comes at the end like a final exam? If you are for formative, Would you like your passion projects to be tested? Let me give you an example. I went to a school recently and I was really amazed that children in the 5th standard were interning in Blunt and interning in IIT to create software and to cut hair in different styles. These were little children and they had decided that this was something that interested them. It was a passion project, which could well become their career. So you are encouraging entrepreneurship at a very, very early age. At the same time, I don't believe you should be locked into one project. But like if you are musical, if you are visual spatial, you can try out a lot of projects while you're in school and hope that the school system takes these seriously and there is assessment, formative assessment on these passion projects. So would you like that kind of thing at all?
Can I answer this one, ma'am?
Yes, please.
Diya. Hello?
Yes, yes, we're waiting.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's start by, again, trying to define what the term passion projects really means for the sake of a better clarity and, you know, just a better understanding of the question that has been asked. So a passion project is an activity or enterprise, like ma'am said, that you decide to take on, usually in your spare time, in order to gain some benefit for yourself. Now, it's a challenge that you will willingly embrace because you hope to gain something from it. And if you plan on taking something for a longer period of time, even if you like it and if you're good at it, there's always some sort of a challenge and a kick involved. So to put it in my own words, a passion project is a hobby, you know, and we all know what hobbies are, but it's different in the sense that it will benefit the person undertaking it in some way or another. And by now, most of us would have gauged that passion projects go hand in hand with personal development, you know, and personal development is sort of a buzzword right now, especially due to the pandemic where we have so much, at least we had so much time during those early days of lockdown where everyone was talking about personal development and how can we better ourselves and improve ourselves to be able to, you know, do better at school, do better at work, and so on. So coming back to the question, many schools pride themselves in being the best for your child's academic and pre-professional development, but rarely anyone, at least in the Indian context, talks about personal development. And I'd like to be very clear in saying that it's not that schools don't care and that educational institutions do not care about children's personal development at all. And that's quite false, actually, because that's the belief that's really propagated in our country, is that school doesn't care about you and it's just an institution where you go to, like you said, someone said earlier, where you go so that you can get a job later. But that's quite false. Most schools do actually care. And to give you an example, during a child's preschool and kindergarten days, personal development is considered essential and creative engagement is encouraged daily and even rewarded in most cases. If anyone remembers those little golden stars that we were given when we made a great art project, or if we recited a nice poem in class, we were always rewarded for those things. And even later in life, even while seeking admission for college or even job opportunities later in life, a well-rounded individual with a strong academic background is always looked favorably upon and even prioritized, you know. Sometimes it's even stated as a requirement, oh, you should have some sort of a personal development, some passion project that you have undertaken during your life, and we'd like for you to talk about it. And a lot of people get stunted when that question arises because that is not fostered and propagated in our school life. So why is it that personal development is, like I said, fostered during children's early years, thoroughly emphasized upon, and sometimes even stated as a requirement later in life and in job applications, and it's yet barely talked about or inculcated during actual school life when you're supposed to be doing it? Somewhere down the line, our educational systems have lost the plot, sorry to say, and forget to encourage an essential aspect of a child's education that they themselves seem to value so much during college. Schools would just start showing that they value personal development and care about a child's passion and interests outside of academics. It would not only serve as support for those people who already have passions and interests outside of academics and pursue them. You know, it would not only serve as support for them, but also encourage thousands of other students that do not have those things and do not wish to have those things because they think that it will affect their academics. If we show some sort of an encouragement and care for that, it would really benefit everyone. And it's really a win-win situation for everyone involved, because students get to do what they want. And if we, like ma'am said, if we get to inculcate that into some sort of an assessment, then they get appreciated for what they like to do, which is obviously such a great thing. And schools benefit from fostering individuals that they hope to put out into the world of higher education and job market and so on. So to conclude, yes, we would like to see, at least with the discussions I've had with my peers and my own opinions, we would like to see our passion projects being taken seriously and included in assessment, perhaps, if that is possible. Simply because we would like to—
Thank you, Sia. Couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Let's now move to some of the questions on.
Ma'am, may I answer this question?
Could we move to the questions on parenting now?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Coomi.
Would you take over?
Yes, Coomi, thanks. And I'd like to compliment all our youth for some really, really insightful responses, very thought through and extremely well articulated. You know, when we were thinking about parenting, as you know, parenting is known to be the single largest preserve of the amateur. You know, you don't let just anyone go and drive a car. They have to get a license. You don't let anyone go and become a chef in a restaurant. Yeah. So there's a certification, but there is no certification, and parents muddle along. And as a mother of 2 kids and also a mommy coach for many years, I tell you, it continues to remain a whole new ball game. And now with COVID, I think all the moms who didn't want their kids to have lots of screen time are pulling out their hair to say, now where does this end? Because everything is screen time. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions just so we can help parents figure out and really try and understand what is it that kids want. And, you know, I'm keen to understand from you, in what way can parents understand their children better? Is there someone who'd like to answer this one? Yes,
there are some who haven't answered at all.
Yes, yes. So, Sia, I'll come to you. Maybe let me hear a voice and then I'll come back to you if you don't mind.
There are some who have been silent. Please speak up.
Someone from among our panelists, youth panelists who haven't spoken, can we get a point of view? In what ways can parents understand children better? Araav, of course.
Yes, Araav.
Ma'am, can I answer the question of passion projects means my point of view?
Can we come back? Because we'll just do a little bit on parenting and then come back. Is that okay?
We'll come back. Araav is the youngest on our panel. Thank you for being here.
Coomi, I don't see so much enthusiasm on parenting. So, I mean, I think the kids are possibly as... Yes, Dr. Karishma Koka, can I come to you in a minute? Let me see whether a child wants to answer.
Could you repeat the question?
In what ways can parents understand their children better? So should I ask Sia, since Sia had put up her hand?
Please, Sia.
May I answer? Hello. I was trying to speak, but I was not able to because of the network.
Who's that, please?
Tejas.
Tejas. All right, Tejas, your
Yes.
network is quite poor. Can you speak up a little, please?
Is it okay now? Am
Much
I
better.
audible?
Much
Yes,
better.
yes, yes. Please,
Thank you.
Tejas,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Uh, uh, what I think about parenting, it's really easy to comment on some at all. But used to take tuitions of some students from 5th standard to 8th standard, and most of the parents used to keep complaining about them that they don't study at all. They just keep talking about food, keep talking about cartoon, and I try to find solution to that. And which food they love, we try to give the examples from them only. So I think that parents should talk to their children more and should identify what they love and their world according to that. That's my opinion. I used to be with those students just for 2 hours in a day. So it is easier for me to say that, but that's my opinion about it. I
Well
hope some
said.
of you agree.
Yes, that's lovely. Thank you, Tejas. So communicate, talk more. Sia.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Um, so I just like to put out that as a 16-year-old, I may not be the most qualified person in this forum to speak about something as complicated as raising children, which is arguably one of the toughest jobs in the world, and yet something you probably have never prepared for formally. Yet I wish to speak about this topic because I feel that there are not enough youth and younger voices participating in discussions that directly concern the way that they are going to be treated, you know. And for that, I just like to extend a very small gratitude to Ms. Coomi for giving us a platform wherein we can voice our opinions on such things that children are not usually allowed to talk about. So without further ado, I'd like to begin answering the question by providing just a simple roadmap which could be useful to parents of all ages in trying to understand their child better. To quote a very famous child development psychologist, our issues don't just arise out of nowhere. They come with a story, and learning the story of a person's development, both the science and the individual's unique experiences, is critical to helping people. Now, this is an approach often taken in child developmental psychology. And I think that this is one which really echoes the root of all parent-child fallouts. When, like the previous panelist said, when we come across behavior that we deem even mildly unacceptable, we tend to think that this person has suddenly developed an unpleasant characteristic that must be gotten rid of as soon as possible. But the truth is that almost all, bad behaviors have an intricate, complicated backstory that just hadn't manifested itself into a behavior up until now. So, for example, a child that has suddenly started to become rude and aggressive has more often than not had that disposition for a pretty long time. And the reason for it lies within certain experiences and encounters in that child's past. So, if we try to dig deeper into the issue and find out exactly what those experiences are, what caused that behavior, we'll be getting somewhere successfully in trying to correct that child's behavior, so to speak. This approach can be applied to most issues that parents find their children to be having, whether that be not focusing on academics as much, social media addiction, procrastination, and other common complaints,
Yeah. No, Sia, I think that was a nice broad-based answer. In fact, it is
just a different
someone's.
view. Can I?
Yeah.
A little different view. Right.
Is that Garvit?
Yeah, it's Garvit. Can I just have a different view on talk about?
Okay.
Right. So, see, every parent wants to understand their child, all right? But the thing is, the society isn't helping you, nor are the schools. What is your, as a parent, okay, a lot of people are parents here. What is your first concern? My child. Okay, the biggest problem right now in India today is the doctors and engineers, doctors and engineers being the common thing. Everyone wants you to be that. There's a reason for it, and that's care. And your schools, what they do is they make your parents believe that this is the same thing. So look at this, all right? The child, he has no option where to go because his school and his parents, when you have someone who has the same opinion as you, then you are motivated that you're right, right? I mean, I think everyone can relate to that. So there's your reason why a parent cannot understand their children. Every parent tries to understand their children, but no one helps.
Okay, thanks. So what Garvit says is that because there is no sort of a dissent between what the schools and the teachers and the parents, so there's no dissent, which is a healthy sort of a difference of opinion. Everybody sort of there is a kind of a group think about what kids should be, and the individualization of understanding the child is possibly missed. So it's an interesting point. Thank you very much for that. And I have another question, which is really like a corollary to say, in what ways and areas could children understand parents better? So this is...
May I? This is Mrs. Rai here. I'm a parent, and yes, I very much would like to put in my view in this.
Ma'am, can we first hear a child's voice, if you don't mind?
Oh, okay, not a problem. Sure.
In fact, yeah. So let me just hear a child's voice first.
Yeah, Araav.
Yes, Araav.
I believe that if we start sharing a little bit of responsibilities with our children, they should understand us better. As we all know that rights and studies go hand in hand. We should start giving a bit of responsibility to them from a teenager age. I will share an example for this. A lot of parents think that giving money to their child is not a good idea. But what I think is a little different. I believe that if we start giving them a little money when they are kids and ask them to purchase certain things, they will know how to handle money. This is because when you are grown person, you not only have to earn money but handle to in a good way as well. But this they tend to understand the social distributes of their parents and end up being have responsibilities than other kids in roof of the cares. Thank you.
Yeah, so actually, Araav, this part on responsibility, I thought we're going to be covering that a little later. But here my specific question was a little different. In what ways and areas could children understand parents better? I think
may I?
Yes.
I'm Parameshwari.
Yeah, Parameshwari.
Yes, Parameshwari.
Yeah, actually, in my opinion, what I would suggest to understand parents better is by talking to them. Like Tejas said, how can parents understand children better? He also said by talking to them. According to me, how children can understand parents better is again by talking to them. Spending time with them, getting to know their opinions, their view, their ideologies, just simply talking. I mean, complex problems that they don't understand, that can wait for a certain age. But whatever you can tell, like, how was your day? Like, what all do you do in office? Something like that.
Lovely. So just basic dialogue, not necessarily agenda based, but just generally to get to know each other, which is not like any big challenges. I think let me hear one more student voice and then I'll ask a couple of parents because I think there are two parents who want to say something.
Ma'am, can I?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Sumit.
Yes.
But am I audible? Yeah.
Yes, Sumit.
Yeah, ma'am, there's this popular narrative that communication helps, and I mean, it is rated as the panacea to all our problems. Like, okay, communicate and things are solved. Communicate and things are solved. But then, out of my personal experiences, relatively my exposure with my parents is probably the most beautiful relationships I've had in my lives, and it has been over a period of time. So after the relationship matures, actually you don't have to put in that extra effort to communicate things, because most of the things are unsaid and they are communicated, right? So how do we reach to this stage? That is important. So rather than just talking out things, first thing is we cannot share nitty gritty with our parents, which might be huge for us, and we might always have our hang up sharing them with our parents. Probably we might share it with our peers or best friends, cousins, maybe. But then there are things which we might underrate them or undermine them, or as probably these things are not worthy to be shared with our parents, or these things are worthy to be shared with our parents. But then if the relationship comes out to such a seamless level where we don't have these hang-ups and sharing everything properly, that is what communication is to me, right? So how do we reach to this stage? It's apart from communication, it's always also about this emotional quotient which we develop over a period of time. And this is not just developed by our parents or teachers. This is an overall comprehensive idea which is developed by the places we've been, like all the things which shape our personality, or probably all the things which are play an instrumental role in our upbringing, that makes a difference. So for example, if I'm a parent, how would I understand my child better, I feel, is by encouraging good ideas, at the same time criticizing things which are not something with a logical standing, of course. It's not just, okay, no, you are younger to me and no, you're wrong. No. If I'm underrating your idea, then why do I do that? If I can explain that to him with logic, because today's children are more driven by logic and less driven by anything else. If you communicate them with a sound logic, they would get convinced. That's what I feel.
For allowing her speak up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would also like to just add one very small but important aspect to it, that right from the beginning, if we as parents learn to change confrontations into carefrontations, by showing that, by building up connection with your child, you're showing that even though you may have a very different opinion, there is love and care at the root of it. I think that is when there is more comfort in talking to parents. That is my opinion on it. Thank you. Yeah. Anyone else? Now we could move to.
I just wanted to ask you, should we have all the session questions going with the youth and then have the others speak up in the Q&A? Is that a better idea?
Well, basically, we were thinking that we would first listen to the views of the young people and then go to the adults. So maybe, Deepa, we'll club some questions together in order to give time to the audience to ask more questions. So would the adults kindly hold on to their questions? We'll definitely try and come to you, but there is only that much we can do in an hour and a half. Please bear with us.
So thanks, Coomi. So there's another question here for our youth. Can you suggest ways of ensuring cyber wellness in the family? You know, we are all behind our respective screens. How can you have human time, human connect, and like Sumit rightly says, the whole build up to a beautiful relationship, which is really about dialogue and communication. So we are not communicating with our kids and our parents over WhatsApp, sitting at the dining table, but looking them in the eye and communicating and conversing. So any ideas and thoughts there?
Can I?
Yeah, who's this?
Can I?
Can you identify yourself, please?
It's Araav.
Yes, Araav, tell me.
Araav.
Yeah, ma'am. So I would like to tell that cyber wellness is all about behavior and actions of an individual in the cyberspace. And cyber wellness is as important as any other thing because it reflects your youth to the greater public. And nowadays, this is being harmed by cybercrime. Now we are living in an age where children enter the cyber world, sometimes even before they enter their mid school. So it becomes a problem for parents that how can they maintain this cyber wellness? Not only children, but even old age people are entering cyberspace faster than ever. So it's a matter of concern of the whole family. And this can be done by the following: by spreading awareness about in the family and also in the public. Activities of children must be kept at a check by the parents. Always be cautious about cybercrimes and frauds. Thank you.
Very well put.
That's very interesting. And I love the way you talk about Araav, also the elders, because many of them now are more than ever before on social media, especially in the last 4 or 5 years, and could be very vulnerable talking about, where they are. I was taking a different take on it, and my angle was more about dialogue, but the point you make is very important. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anyone else?
We could move on to the next question, perhaps.
Okay. So this is my favorite question. As someone who's an elder caregiver, how can younger members in the family participate in the effective care of seniors? How can you involve young people to be caregivers to seniors in the family?
Are you all tired? Are you all hungry? Just
Ma'am, may I?
Yeah.
Does Diya want to say something? Diya?
Somebody else also volunteered, so I would
Yeah, so
rather
Diya,
have
you
them
go ahead.
first.
You haven't answered yet. I'll come to Krisha. I think Krisha wants to say something as well, and
Yeah.
Parameshwari too. I'm going to get 3 voices here.
Yeah, so one thing that I would like to highlight in terms of care, anybody in the family would need care when they're needed, most importantly, when they are vulnerable. Otherwise, we might not, let's say, identify care as much, but we need care especially when we are vulnerable, and especially from spaces like home. And for me, let's say, if somebody else in my family is angry about something, and we don't share all aspects of our lives, everything with family members anyway, right? So if, let's say, for example, my father is angry about something that's happened in his workspace or something like that, even to be able to go and communicate the fact, and I just want to go and say that, oh, it's fine, it will be fine, I don't know what it is, but I hope it gets better. I feel I feel threatened because, well, maybe he just doesn't want to listen, and all of those things. So what happens is, when we have members from the family who are willing to provide that sort of care, and on the other hand, there are members who need care, but they don't recognize that somebody is willing to provide for it. I don't see how to go about it. So let's say my take isn't really an answer, it's another question. But I have
You'd like to know more. I mean, what you
yeah,
said is very
yeah.
important, saying everybody could be holding back some parts, which make it hard for the family to know if they're hurting. And there must be better ways, and even in the family, a safe space for people to talk about their vulnerabilities and if they need care. So thank you for that, Diya. Parameshwari, how about you?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, when it comes to giving care to elders, all I'm suggesting is one small step that I saw was extremely effective: spending time with them. Now, if you want, I've been saying the same when it comes to how can parents understand children? How can children understand parents? But for me, I found that as a solution, that spending time with them. Me and my grandma, we talk a lot. We play board games. We do things that we enjoy. You pitch in to help them with their household chores. You talk about them on various subjects. And when it comes to you know younger members helping with elder members in the family, it creates this kind of connection that right now I can happily say that my best friends are my parents. So that is what I wanted to share.
Super. Thank you for that. That was brilliant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the next one. And Krisha, I'll start with you here. The fifth question. Rather than have responsibility foisted on you, in what areas would you step forward to assume responsibility?
So, in terms of responsibility, I feel like when irresponsibility isn't foisted on someone, when it's not imposed on someone, I would be more responsive to take it up. So, if I see a family member struggling with something, I would be more than happy to go forward and help them with whatever it is. Because in the end, that's what being human is. That's what respecting someone else is all about. Because when you see that someone else is in distress, you need to have the idea to step forward and assist them with it. So if my mom's tired on Sunday, I would be more than happy to go ahead and help her. So I just feel like it's necessary for children to have that consciousness and realize that their parents are having a hard time dealing with something in their family, and just step forward and take responsibility. And that is something which our parents need to inculcate in us at an earlier stage, so we are conscious enough to know when we need to step up.
So Krisha, I'm just going to give you a counter question here. So a lot of times in the dialogue between men and women expect men to intuitively know where they need help. And men would want the wife to say and speak up that she expressly needs help because he's not noticed. Given that there is this difference between the genders that we have read about and learned about, you possibly as a little girl are far more sensitive and picking this up with your mum probably needing a little helping hand. But are you okay if your brother may not even notice, for example? So is it okay for parents to verbalize and say, look, I need you guys to pitch in, or this is like a family project. We are doing this over the weekend. All of us are, or for the, sometimes mothers also like to play martyr, and they'll say, oh, I have to do everything. But look, you haven't put up your hand to seek help as well. So how does one deal with that?
So that is the psychology that in Indian homes, that is something that I've noticed, because there are subtle ways of saying certain things which should at points be said very directly to people. So if you need help, it's very important for a parent to ask help, because in a home, a child is going to ask their mothers for help, their parents for help, their fathers for help in anything like projects, math, or just anything in general. So I just feel like if we drop the attitude of subtly hinting at things and make our communication more direct with people in our family who we've known throughout our life, it would just make all our lives so much more simpler and happier, and that's something we need to realize.
And then it doesn't have to be a soap opera, right?
No, definitely not.
Okay. Lovely. So I'm going to go to the last parenting question before we go to some of the paired questions. Would you like bonding, or how would you like bonding with your family over music, arts, nature? So I did this a lot with my kids, right? So we learned piano together, we did Spanish together, we went on nature trails every Sunday, we played a game, we played squash, we played golf, we swam. So I just want to know what's your idea of bonding? How would you think is a nice way to bond with your kids?
May I answer this question? Araav.
Yeah, Araav, yes.
Okay, ma'am. So, ma'am, I would be extremely happy to share a bonding with my family over music, the arts, and nature. It would be surely be pleasure and joy, not only for me but for my family members too. Music, arts, and nature are the symbols of happiness, pleasures, and life. It would even boost up our morals. This would help me in forming a bond between each member of my family and a strong connection with them. I would surely and happily spend 3 hours in a week to do this, so I can take all the pleasures and all my other works don't get disturbed. Thank you.
Thanks. That's nice, Araav.
Such interesting questions, Deepa, and such lovely responses. I think we could go on forever. But now, very quickly, we'll take some of the paired questions. Some of them have already been answered. For instance, we had one question on, would you like to really learn self-regulation? And this whole take on yoga has made us realize that young people would really want to know more about themselves and how to regulate their emotions. Nothing in our school curriculum teaches us how to deal with anger, hatred, jealousy, frustration, whatever. So that question has already been answered. I think another allied question has also been answered in a way, which is that would you like to be taught about, would you like your spiritual intelligence honed by parents or by teachers? And I think this has come up very well. It seems to be both. Now,
I would like to answer this one specially.
Sure, who's that?
This is Diya.
Yes, Diya.
Ma'am, so would I, if it's possible.
Okay, but we want to leave some time for the questions coming in from the audience.
Yes, that's perfectly all right.
Be brief, be quick.
All right, Parameshwari, if you want to go first.
No, I'll go after Diya since you opted first.
Okay, so the thing about spirituality particularly, I actually don't know how to go about it, because firstly, the whole concept of anything being spiritual or temporal is the fact that it can't have a material manifestation. So even if we were to learn spirituality in our institutional spaces or at home, how do we go about it?
No, by spirituality, what we meant very clearly, as I've spelt it out in the extended question, is that would you want to learn some calming exercises? We are not talking about anything which is denominational, not religious, not pertaining to any religion, but is spirituality your own spirit? How do you understand yourself? It's connected with self-awareness, with self-regulation. Wouldn't you as a person in today's world want to know how to calm yourself in moments when you're really agitated? That was a thrust of the question. So I understand your concern. It's always a concern. The minute you talk about spirituality, there's always a concern. But today, psychologists, neuroscientists, everyone will tell you that spiritual intelligence is the highest intelligence. But if somebody seeks to define that, then there is a problem. We don't want that, right? Thank you. Very, very genuine concern. Somebody else wants to answer that?
I think Parameshwari wants to answer.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, in my opinion, spiritual intelligence refers to a high level of focus, a state of calm and alertness, and an expanded level of awareness and understanding. Now, if this is spiritual intelligence, then it should be emphasized in both school and college as well as home. And it should specifically be non-denominational based.
Absolutely.
It should be taught to everyone and integrated within the curriculum at every stage. And if you ask why, it's because it helps everyone make their decisions based on sound reasoning rather than emotional based. It allows everyone to focus properly, and it should most definitely be a part of our life.
Great. Just one last question and then we wrap this up. We all agree that these days we are obliged to discuss sexually inappropriate behavior. Would you feel comfortable doing it with parents or with teachers or both?
May I answer?
Yes, yes.
So I just feel like it is very imperative to discuss this matter in a safe environment, because it is a very serious matter and it requires care and it requires sensitivity. So I just feel like if in schools something like sex education courses were given in school at least for a period of 2 to 3 months, it would help children understand the concept so much more better. It would help them to differentiate between good touch, bad touch, what classifies as abuse, because there are many points that we see that people don't even know what comprises of abuse, and they would normalize activities which are absolutely not okay and which need to be addressed by adults, which need to be addressed by anyone in general, and help the child to come out of that type of emotional stress. And I just feel like it's very important to have a conscious collaboration between the parents and the teachers, because if the school takes a step forward and explains these topics to children, the parents need to be more than willing to answer these questions when they come at home from the child, because the child has every right to know about this. The child has every right to understand what is happening and to go through, and it is just important to talk about what you're feeling, because if you try to if you just try to keep it within yourself and just not address it at all, it can become a very serious issue, and it can lead to a lot of other things which are absolutely not healthy for the child, because that's not done.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more.
May
Deepa,
I add something to Krisha's answer? Tejas.
okay. After Tejas, can we throw it open to the audience, please?
Yes, that was really good answer by Krisha. I just want to add something that I was neither comfortable with my parents or teacher to talk about this, but yeah, she is right. We must be able to. We should learn to discuss those things, discuss what is sexual abuse, what is discrimination, and all those things. Because most of the times we don't just know about this, and as Krisha said, that we have normalized wrong things in our society, and we just keep
Tejas, we've lost you.
Yeah, I think
them
Tejas makes
continue
a good
if we
point.
don't
Yeah.
discuss about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what teachers and parents need to do is to create a safe space.
Yeah.
Because once you create that safe space, then this kind of dialogue can take place. Yeah, wonderful. We'd be very happy to take some questions from the audience now.
Ma'am, actually, I want to answer that passion projects question.
Araav, I think we should
Our
wait. We won't
passion
have
project.
time.
Yes, quickly, Ara. Quickly, please.
I'll answer this question very quickly. So
Yes, please.
my answer is I would like to see any of my taken seriously and included in assessment, as it would surely increase my morale. This is also because it will help one assesses my true knowledge on certain topics in a better way. Even it will let others judge my skills and ideas so that they can help me out with better methods and ideas, which is definitely even increase my skill. This would let others know my creative side and follow my dreams more passionately. Thank you, ma'am. And
Thank you very much. Thank you. Of course, that's the whole purpose of a passion project. Thank you, Arav. You've got it right. So can we now ask the audience for questions?
So there are lots of questions that have come in comments as well as and comments that have come in the in the chat from the participants. So how do we do this? Maybe we can have. I think Rihanna Rai wanted to speak, so maybe Rihanna Rai can talk. Dr. Karishma Koka wanted to have.
And Valerie Mendonça.
Yes. So maybe these three people could speak possibly.
Yes, please. Could you unmute yourself?
Yeah, this is Valerie here.
Yes, Valerie.
A very interesting discussion. I'll just quickly say that I'm a parent of a 5.5-year-old daughter. And so I'll just share what I do as a parent to connect to my child, and any recommendation that I would have for how children can connect to their parents and communicate. So what I do is that number one thing I believe is I'm working on my own self. I have issues of my own. Children believe that their parents are superheroes, but in reality, we were not born on another planet Krypton with all the parenting skills that we have. We are also having our backstories. We have our failures. We are humans. So number one is to work on our own issues so that we can so that our child who is looking at us understands that our parents are working on themselves as well, and how we can become better. So if I have a problem in my own self, or if I have a problem in my relationship with my husband, my child is watching this. So my first thing is to work on my own issues so that I can help my child work on her issues later. My second thing what I do with my child is that I do a regular pulse check on her. So I keep asking her almost every second day. I ask her that, how are you feeling today? What was the best part of your day? What was the worst part of your day? So that when she shares with me, I get an insight into what excites her and what annoys her, so that I can understand her better. Now we know communication is important, but sometimes we don't even know how to communicate or what to communicate about. So this is what I do with my child. Number 3 is to create a safe environment at home. I know this has been said, but what I mean by it is that when my child is at home or out wandering in the world, she should feel that my home is the safest place where I can talk with my parents, where I can share anything and not feel judged or not feel criticized or things like that. Now when it comes to how children can understand parents, so children want to understand parents. Again, I would suggest that when any one of you, as a teenager, you must be going through so many issues. I went through issues. So my recommendation there for all the young people is that whenever you are going through an issue, or even when you're not, you want to bond with your parent, ask them questions about their own childhood, and suddenly you will get an insight into how was their life and what issue that they face, the same issue what you must be facing now, and what is the difference in their life and what is the difference in your life. It will make you more appreciative of your parents. It will make you understand their struggles better, and you will get a better insight into what kind of person your parent is. And as you grow into an adult, you can understand that your parent is again not a superhero or a superheroine, but is a human person just like you, and so you will understand how to deal with your parents better. So that's all I wanted to say.
Beautiful.
Beautiful, Valerie. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? Mrs.
Dr. Karishma, I think, had some.
Rihanna, I think, wanted to say, parent Rihanna Rai, she mentions that story. I think in that context, she talked about the story behind health, no rote learning.
Is she there?
No, I don't think she's there. Dr. Koka, is she there? Karishma Koka? Ma'am, you wanted to speak?
I'm here.
Would you like to say something?
At that time, the thing that I wanted to say was, a question was asked, how do we go about this best? And what I wanted to say that I think what you, Deepa and Coomi have done today is the way forward. Because the whole concept of education is to bring out, to educe. And you've achieved this today on two fronts, a two-way dialogue between parents and children. And I think that's the way forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Is there anyone else who has a question, suggestion, anything at all? We must have teachers, parents, young people, everyone on the same platform working very determinedly towards changing things. It's in our hands and we can do it.
I have a question. Typed it on the chat. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to see it.
Sorry.
Can I just ask the question?
Yes, please. Who's it? Please name.
My name is Amit. I'm a parent of a 10-year-old boy and a 13-year-old girl in Mumbai, going to a wonderful school called Akshara High School. My question was that I know that marks are an important indicator of how effectively a topic has been covered in school. And I feel that there's always a thin line between how do you make those marks be, let's say, positively something that is a positive thing to achieve, as opposed to it becoming a pressure thing, which then everybody's kind of assessing, oh, that guy got that much, oh, that guy got that much, how much should you get next time, or study harder, How I'm not a teacher, I'm not an educator, so I don't know, how do you find that fine line? What do you people think?
I could give you my take on it. My take on it would be, and the educators here like Mark and others are please free to answer, but my take on it is that we do not test memory and the end results, we test the process. Therefore, formative assessment is more meaningful than testing. Test comes at the tail end, you get 80, 70, and as you rightly said, that's it. that if you are testing the process, which is what Madame Montessori, Rudolf Steiner have taught us to do right from infancy, where the process is important and not the end results. I think in that way we can be much more effective as evaluators. Mark, do you agree with this?
Yes, I do, Kumi. I think that it takes smaller class sizes. And in order to achieve that, we need more money. If we were to spend as much on an individual child's education as we do on defense in our countries, for example, we'd be in a much better situation to appreciate individual children as people, you know. And can I just say one little thing? Could we stop talking about children? Can we just talk about young people? Yes. Because this is a category where there's a kind of hierarchy, you know. And I think that there's an equality from the spiritual intelligence point of view. There's an equality amongst all of us. And our society is just obsessed with quantifying everything now. You know, I'm so tired of hearing, have you noticed what's happened to the word surpassed, for example? They talk about the number of deaths in coronavirus surpassing this, you know, as if it's a great competition and that there's a prize at the end. This is just so destructive, and it's that competitiveness that leaves some people who are deemed not to be in the mainstream in education and in parenting to feel that they're failures, that they're losers, you know what I mean? When we've got the most powerful political person in the world talking about people as losers, you can see the problem.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes,
Ma'am, may I make a comment? Kumi ma'am?
Yes, yes.
Susan here.
Yes, Susan.
Yeah, ma'am. I just wanted to say that with regard to the 2 points that were raised earlier, one about spirituality and the other about sex education, I think that they need to be worked into our Indian curriculum system a little better. So I studied in a convent school, and we always had religion as a class, and the so-called non-Catholics then had something called moral science. And I never for the life of me understood throughout my school life what that meant, and you know, why. And of course for us then it was for the Catholics, it was all about just teaching us about the Bible. And that's not it's not necessary, you know, that's not spirituality, just one teaching one particular text of one particular religion. And when it comes to sex education, again, the only sex education that we got was when the, I think, carefree people, you know, came to school to promote their sanitary napkins, and then we got some sort of, so, you know, sex education is not about anatomy and about just the body alone. And then again, why would it be restricted? If it's a girls' school, it's only about the female body. Why do you not need to know about the male body? And it's so much more than just anatomy and, you know, the functions of your body. It's also about masculinity and femininity and how these, you know, constructs are made, and you know, how men and women are supposed to relate to each other with respect, and it's so much more than that. But they are taught in such a reductive manner. I think that is the reason why, even though they're kind of addressed, they're not really addressed. And I think maybe the feeling is that this, you know, the parents should take care of these things at home, and the school really can't do everything. And so my one last point was in the chat box, someone mentioned something about happiness as a subject at school. You know, maybe something of that sort, because I know that happiness is also being taught as a subject in some foreign universities. Maybe we could do something like that.
Yes, thank you, Susan. I mean, ever since Harvard has done this very important work on the happiness quotient, we began talking about it. The UAE is the first country in the world which now has a Ministry of Happiness. So yes, these are things which do need to be addressed and worked into our curriculum. So if there are no more questions.
So I just want to, Kumi, may I just one last comment? This whole aspect of the theory of multiple intelligences again is very important. So when Adi talked about marks alone, and you know, where we talked about competition or getting people to stand in a line, how do we genuinely appreciate the 8, 9 different intelligences, and how do we allow people to, you know, young people to blossom depending upon where their talents truly lie? So as leadership coaches, we know that everybody is gifted. And as people who practice the growth mindset, we know everyone has an opportunity to unlock their given potential and to make their mark and whatever they're supposed to do in the world. So I think, Kumi, those were great discussions. We are at, I think, 5:31 time check.
Yes, absolutely. So if there are no more questions, are there any more questions? Urgent questions?
And I loved Mark's comments. I think they were awesome. I loved the part about spends in education. That really touched me. Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else? All right, so with that, I invite the Global Tipping Point Summit coordinator, Ms. Donna Reen, to kindly propose a vote of thanks. A special thanks from me to all you wonderful young people. Special thanks to you.
Okay, the nicest part is saying the thanks. And I genuinely want to thank all the students and the participants here. We had some, I mean, you all have given us so much food for thought, which I thought questions would be thought provoking, but you all surpassed that. As Mark would say, you all surpassed the answers were more thought provoking. I think we'll have to think about these things right till the summit and after that. And we'd like to also thank you for being a part of the Global Tipping Point Summit. And we do want to see you all in November, December. That the summit will start on 20th November. We have the inauguration. And on Friday, 20th November, where we have Ms. Shaheen Mistry, an education reformer, and Kiran Bir in conversation with Bachi Karkaria, an eminent journalist. So we want to see you there. This is not the last session. This is just a pre-event session. We want you to be there for the real thing that starts on 20th November. So thank you very much, students, participants, my fellow members of the core committee, for all your help to see this a success. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Stay safe. Stay blessed.
Thank you.
Thank you.